As an architect myself, I understand how scary it can be to go over to the Systems tab in Revit and model ducts and pipes and electricity and electrical plans and all that good stuff. But as small scale residential architects, you find yourself having to create potentially electrical plans and plumbing plans and maybe even HVAC drawings. And so in today's episode of BIM After Dark Live, we are going to take the Northwing project, and I'm going to tell you the quickest and fastest way to learn how to model plumbing for your projects, specifically for small scale residential projects. So, and I'm an architect, so you're not going to leave this thing becoming an engineer, but hopefully you leave this knowing how to start modeling plumbing, how to start modeling ductwork, and be able to create some of the drawings and images that I'm going to show you today. So without further ado, let's jump into this episode of BIM After Dark Live. All right, guys, how's it going? Welcome to episode 121 of BIM After Dark Live. Thank you for joining me today on this lovely Wednesday evening, or maybe Thursday afternoon if you're somewhere else in the world. But yeah, I'm excited about this episode. This season, we've been following along with the Northwing project, which is a small addition, about 800 square feet total, 400 per floor, of a primary suite with an office and a storage room attached to a house here in Connecticut. And I've just been kind of showing you the process as we go through it. And so I'm excited to talk about plumbing and plumbing drawings and just sort of the approach to making something usable when it comes to plumbing. I know as small scale residential architects, a lot of times you may not be hiring engineers to do things like a plumbing drawing. And so that's why I thought it was really important to do this. Not going to get into the depths of what maybe MEP engineers would actually need to get into, but I'm going to show you how to get started and create some actually believable plumbing drawings, but also more than anything using 3D to create them instead of just line work on a plan, because of course we're using CAD, Revit, BIM, right? We're using 3D, and so we should be using 3D in that sense. If you are here. If you are here live, thank you for joining us. I will be keeping an eye on a chat as we go along. Feel free to ask questions, jump in and join the conversation. We've got some returning folks and some new folks as always. And of course, subscribe to the channel here on YouTube. This is episode 121, as I mentioned before. So head over to live.bimafterdark.com. or to the playlist section of my channel here on YouTube to check out the other 120 episodes. This is actually part, I think, 7 of the Northwing series, and so you can definitely check that out as well over on the playlist section. We went through a whole bunch of fun stuff if you're not familiar with the project. So let's, Buildzilla just asked if that is that a strat on my wall? Let's see if I can quickly go to... It's not going to show the background here. Yeah. Yes, it is a Stratocaster. It is a Fender American Strat in a custom yellow paint job. Okay. So let's do this, guys. This is going to be fun. My voice is I'm still fighting this cold a little bit, so I'm going to try and push through this as fast as possible. But I will be checking out the chat as we go through it. And so let's jump into the project. Let's do it. So here's where the project is. If I jump through to in 3D. I've been doing quite a bit, actually pretty much finished the pricing set, which may or may not be pretty close to what we use for the permit set. Not too much has changed design-wise. I did a little tweak to the roof over here. I am playing with some ideas of systems and materials, but mostly I've been filling in the drawings and the actual details and whatnot. Again, if you watched the episode last week, where I was converting text notes to multi-category texts and material tags. I've been kind of doing that as I go through. And I will tell you, and I think somebody mentioned in the comments from the last video, going through that process and then developing drawings after building this library of multi-category descriptions within families man, super nice. Like you jump into an elevation and you just hit a tag and it's boom, it's the same text. It's all there. It's super efficient. And so I'll quickly just skip through a couple of the drawings 'cause I know you guys might be interested. No, not much has changed in the drawing wise from last week. I did sort of finish these sections in detail. So this is kind of the wall section that we were talking about last week. So finished laying in some of the details, some of the notes, some of the details of the building itself. I finished this section, which, once I did the other one wall section, filling in all these was like super easy because these are all multi-category tags and material tags. The ceiling plans are starting to come together pretty good. I did some layouts with lights and whatnot. There will be an episode about lights and electrical as we go through it. I will talk about this electrical power plan and sort of how I created that. But today what we're going to be talking about is this guy right here. So, one of the things that I absolutely love doing is playing with different ways to communicate and and show design intent and add value on drawings. The idea of adding color and shading and whatnot. One thing I will say though, when you do that, is sometimes it makes the PDFs a little big. Whatever. I think we're beyond that this day and age. But what you'll see on this drawing here is I actually thought, I wanted to do interior elevations of this primary suite, and I was going to have them on a different sheet. But again, I'm not. This is me, my own firm, my own stuff. So I don't necessarily have to abide by standards, so to speak. And so I thought, why would I, instead of just, this is only one bathroom, it's the only part of the project that's plumbing wise, why not just make a plumbing sheet that also has all the details on the bathroom itself? And so just to give you a sense, and I'm also playing with how I want to show a plumbing drawing. And again, it's one of those things where, yeah, there is a standard out there, but let's see what we can do utilizing Revit to make it, again, tell the whole story that we want to tell. And so here's the sort of plumbing drawing. Here's the current version of the primary bath. So you can see here some sections or some elevations of it, another elevation of it here, another elevation there, and then a nice little 3D axon of it. Again, just to show design intent, to show what we're trying to do, to explain to not just myself, but stuff like that. Sorry, Builds just asked if I insulated between the floors. Yes, so that the space underneath is going to become this office. And so, that I'm actually going to be doing RC1 clips and insulation and trying to make that sort of a sound-proof box, so to speak. So yes, you did notice there's insulation there. That is not for heat transfer. That is for sound, for sure. Okay. And so then here, and then I did this 3D diagram. At this scale, the scale of project, the idea is really, in my opinion, it's very conceptual in the sense of like, I'm going to end up talking to the plumber, right? I'm the GC and the architect, so I'm going to end up talking to the plumber. This is my intent, and then we'll walk through the means and methods and so on and so forth. So, that's kind of the idea with this sheet is making sure that, the intent is there, and so we're going to talk about how to create some of these things, but obviously starting with the actual pipes. How do we create the pipes themselves? Before we jump into the pipes, what I will do is take a quick moment to thank our sponsor for this season. So that is the fall season of BIM After Dark Live, and that is RevitFamily.biz. All right, so Brenton Weiberg, who will actually be on the show in a couple of episodes to announce a really, really neat new bundle of families, is the creator of RevitFamily.biz. He makes some incredible families for residential architects using Revit. That includes cabinets, doors, windows, electrical and lighting families, and definitely worth checking out for sure. He not only has sponsored this season of BIM After Dark Live, but he offered 20% off for anybody who uses this code right now. So if you head on over to revitfamily.biz and use the offer code 20, RevitKid24, I believe it's capital R, capital K, information will be in the description below as well. So thank you, Brenton, for sponsoring this episode, and thank you all for tuning into this episode as well. So there was a question about is the soundproofing to play the Strat? It's actually more for the sound transfer because now I'll be under basically our bedroom where when I'm doing this show, for example, I'm not keeping my wife up or bothering her from watching TV, and vice versa, I guess, if she's taking a shower or something, whatever. Okay, so let's jump into how do we get started with this stuff? I'm just gonna strictly jump in and start talking about, well, how the heck do you model this? And one of the things with MEP and Revit, this pretty much applies to all MEP, whether it's ductwork, electrical, plumbing. There's an episode I will link below. I can't remember the number, so I will pull it up, where we talked about mechanical, electrical, and plumbing. And David Butts was the guest, and he had a great way of breaking down the process of creating mechanical models in Revit. And really, it came down to having your starting point, your end point, or your supply and your return, whatever, your supply and your diffuser, right? That kind of thing. And the same with plumbing, right? So the first thing you need to do is you need to put in your fixtures. Okay, you need to have fixtures, then you need to kind of have where they end, right? And then you're basically routing between those two things. So you always kind of start there. Most of the time you're not actually running the stuff first. You're kind of putting part A, part B, and then you need to connect the dots between the two. So what I think we're going to do to make this a little easier is I'm actually going to create a new file because I want to show you guys a nice little trick. So I'm going to do a brand new project, and I'm going to use the out-of-the-box template. Okay, this is the out-of-the-box multidisciplinary template, which actually I think does have some stuff built into it. But either way, the biggest issue that designers, like architects like myself, run into is that our templates are architecture templates. So typically we do not have any MEP stuff built into it. And what I mean by stuff is routing preferences. Okay, and creating that stuff takes a ton of time. And so creating a MEP template takes a lot of time. It usually helps when you build a project over time and create all these routing preferences, find ones that are missing, create more, find ones that are missing, create more, and so on and so forth. As architects and doing the level that we do, that may not be what we need to do. I'll tell you sort of the secret, and the quickest way to jump into it is to just pull it from another file. And guess what? We have a file that is perfect for it. If I go to File, Open, right, and I'm up here on the top left, and I scroll all the way down to where it says Sample Files, okay? If I open some sample files here, and I look at this beautiful Snowden sample plumbing project, which is an individual plumbing model, and I open that guy. That model, I believe, was created by Brian Mackey, who has been on the show before, so I trust that it is a quality model, and I have been in it before, so I can. But really, the key is having system families and routing preferences set up for MEP, and then it becomes almost as simple as drawing walls. Okay, and so if you don't have a template, if you don't have access to a file that maybe has this information, you do now, right? You have it right here in this Snowden file. Okay, and so what I'm going to do quickly is I just open up this the sample file, and let me close the other views real quick. I'm going to turn off the links because it does open the links with it. Okay, and so now you can see what we've got here is a plumbing model, right? So basically what I've done in the past, and what I'm going to show you guys how to actually get started really quickly, is find something that's similar to what you're trying to do. So in residential architecture, a lot of times it might just be PVC piping or some version of that. And so finding a system that works for that and literally copying and pasting it in and then building off of that. Okay, so let's see if we can find, what do we have here? PVC, there we go. That's a vent, but that's okay. So what I'm gonna do is I'm actually just gonna drag across here, right? So I just dragged across, and I'm not gonna bring the grids. I'm gonna bring the pipes and the pipe fittings, and I think it'll bring the system, but if not, we can tab and select the system too. So what I did there is I tabbed and I selected the pipe fittings, the pipes, and the piping systems, okay? And now I'm just gonna copy this. Oh, maybe I can't copy a system. Maybe it's just the pipe. Yeah, all right, so pipes and pipe fitting, fine. All right, and then I'm gonna go to this 3D view here, right here, and I'm gonna paste them in. I'm gonna show you why that's important, okay? So I'm just gonna paste them in here. And if I jump to this, you can see, here's those pipes. Hopefully you guys can see. There you go. There's the pipes there. Okay, so one of the things that I probably, this probably had them all built into it. If I was to click into these pipes and I go to routing preferences and I click edit, all this right here, this is the kind of stuff under routing preferences that you will just mind-numbingly set up. Like it just takes forever and ever to set up. And so that's something that you probably don't have built into your file, is my guess, right? I didn't even have it built into mine because I haven't done it in this particular instance. And so I copied that in to my file, right? And so and then what I did from there is I created systems as needed. And so what I'll do first is I'll jump back over to 3D in my file here. Let's go here. And so even for this guy, for example, this one you could see here, I made a system called footing drains and a type, right? And then for this one, it's just PVC piping. It's all basically drainage stuff like that. So I utilized that. I literally just copied that in, and then I was able to start. And what happens when you copy that in is that it brings in those routing preferences and those system types. Okay, using the out-of-the-box multidisciplinary probably wasn't a good idea because I already had them built in. But that's okay. And so I'm actually going to go in 3D. And so once you do this, when you go to pipe, so if I go to systems and I just go to pipe, right, what you'll see is that I have this PVC DWV. That's actually the one that came in. Okay, I could start level 1. I could say it's a 4-inch diameter. So again, I'm up here, level 1, 4-inch diameter, and then you can see middle elevation, 3, whatever. Okay, and once you do that, what you'll see is drawing pipes can be pretty much as easy as drawing walls. What you're going to start to find out is the no symbol, right? If you it's going to be a little hard to see here, but if you look closely at where my mouse is, I'll try and highlight it. See how there's that no symbol there? So what that no symbol is telling you, and if I click it, it won't let me click it, right? So essentially, that is where a routing preference for that angle doesn't exist. In most cases, when you bring in a system like this, especially from the sample file, you're going to run into all the routing preferences you need. Okay. But the first step is to bring in those system types which come in with the routing preferences. Okay. I will also say that what I'm telling you tonight is in a process where you're modeling the plumbing inside of the same file as the architecture. For small scale residential, I personally think it's okay to do that. As you get to larger projects, it makes sense to have a separate file and then even have a separate template potentially for MEP systems, right? But for this, if we're talking about only 3 or 4 different systems, you want to talk about 3 or 4 different pipes, it doesn't make sense for me to go through the whole idea of linking. So basically bringing these routing preferences into your project is step 1. Okay, so I'm going to go into my project now. And since I brought them in, what I'm going to do now is I'm actually going to go and I'm going to we have some fun with this. I'm going to take the plumbing fixtures. And I'm going to copy them out here. Okay, so those right there, if you can see, those are my plumbing fixtures. There we go. Okay, so you can see we have a toilet. We have this I actually pulled this P-trap. I actually pulled from that sample file as well because I thought it was really neat. And I have the sink obviously as part of the casework you saw there. But I pulled this and it actually has connectors on it, which is really cool, right? Here, this is a tub that I think it's a Kohler tub or something like that. That actually came. You can see it actually has all the connectors. But then I also have this wall-mounted one that has the connectors on it. This guy has connectors as well. This guy has connectors and these have connectors. The reason I'm calling that out is if you want to do this 100% the right way, then you want to use the connectors. Do you have to? If it's like, not really, but if you want to do this the right way, using the connectors is the way to connect the pipes. That's sort of A and B. What's unique about this project and a lot of projects in residential and plumbing in general is like, your end isn't like a air handler unit. It's like, out of the building or where the septic tank, right? Whatever it is from there, right? Juan just asked about PEX piping. PEX is a little different ball game, right? PEX is kind of like, I guess it depends. It depends on the system. You can model it, I guess, if you want, but it's kind of like doing MC cable or something where it gets a little, I don't know, that might be a little too detailed because it's so flexible. But I'm talking about drainage right now today. Let's just talk about, we got to keep it simple, okay? Okay, so then when it comes to actually modeling these pipes, now that I have the systems in here, I have my plumbing fixtures where they need to be, okay? And what I'll do too is I'll show you guys. No, we'll do it out here, okay? You can model in pretty much any of the views, right? But when it comes to MEP, a lot of times I am modeling in 3D, but you do need to have a floor plan, and honestly, sections help a lot too. Working sections, because you might need to do some of this stuff, right? But for now, what we'll do is we will just say we are going to draw our pipe that, oops, sorry, you guys weren't looking at it. So I'm going to go to systems. I'm going to go to pipe. I'm going to use my PVC drainage, wet vent, or whatever. And you can see all these routing preferences set up. I'm going to set this one to bottom of footing, and we're going to call this a 4-inch. And I'm basically going to say, okay, this right here, oops, try that again. Bottom of footing, mid elevation 0. All right, so we're just going to say this right here. This is our pipe. I got to get rid of the topo surface, huh? Topo solid. Okay, so this is our exit pipe. Okay, that's going to our septic tank, for example, right? You can see it's down here. Okay. So we have our start point, right? We have our plumbing fixtures, and then we have our end point, which is the bottom of this, where this is coming in, right? So then it's just a matter of starting to connect these two things, right? And once you have these routing preferences, you saw how easy it was for me to do that, right? I didn't even need to think about it. I can just model, okay? What's nice about plumbing is that a lot of times, of course, I'm gonna by putting it outside the building, none of my views are gonna work, I think, at this point in time, but that's okay. Okay, so we have A, we have B, and now let's just run one real quick. Okay, so let's just say I'm gonna start with what I think will probably be the biggest one, which is the toilet. Let's say it might be the biggest drain line. And so what I'm going to do here is I'm going to create similar, or I can go to system pipes, whatever. I'm going to make this one a 3-inch. This one's going to be first floor, and I think we're going to be middle elevation is going to be, let's just say it's -1 feet. I'd have to cut a section stuff to remember exactly where. Okay, but now if I do this here, I can start sort of sketching out how I think this is going to go, and let's just say maybe, and I won't connect it yet, maybe it's going to go like this, maybe it's going to do a 45 to here, and then it's going to go like this. Okay, so one thing you'll notice is look what it automatically did. Okay, so I'll do that again, but I'll do it in 3D here. Okay, so if I take this guy, and what's happening is, see how it's locking to the bottom? I don't know, it might be hard to see on here. If I click that, you'll see what it does. It actually just connects it. Because all these routing preferences are set up, because the system's all set up, because I just copied it from somebody else who did all the work for me to set it up, thank you, Brian Mackey, that's how it works. It's as simple as that, right? I was able to just, it saw the bottom piece and it locked. Let's say it didn't do that automatically, okay? And of course, you may not want this, you may not want this reducer to be here, that's fine, whatever. We can talk about that. But let's say it didn't. Let's say we had these two pieces, right? You can actually just use trim as well, depending on what it is, or you can grab this guy, pull it down, it'll look for the center. So I'm just dragging, look for the center, and it's doing it, right? And so it becomes super, super easy to do. You can also go into an elevation or a section view and draw it, but I actually try my best to make it auto find the routes, as opposed to like going in a section and click, 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 because of the fact that when you have to find the auto route like this, then you're usually dealing with a much more realistic fitting and what do you want to call it, join piece or whatever. So for right now, we're just going to leave that, even though I might actually, let's do this. Let's change the, one thing we might want to do here is maybe before we drop it down, maybe it jumps to a, or this guy maybe jumps to a 4-inch. So I'm going to change this. I'm just selecting it, changes it to 4 inches. But now all these fittings are kind of screwed up, so I'm just going to delete these fittings. And remember, I could trim it. So this is TR. So trim is TR. Or I could just grab it and pull it and look for the center and lock it, and you'll see what it's. Of course, it won't find it now. All right, that's all right. We'll just use trim here. TR. So TR trim, and you can see now I've got a 4-inch here. Now the reducer's up here, a little more realistic there, right? So, of course, that let us quickly connect these. It's gonna drive me nuts with the building behind here. I should probably put a section. Let me put a section box around or something. I'm sure it's probably driving you guys nuts too. But. All right, let me just do it this way, just so we don't have crap everywhere. All right, and I'll even hide this one. Okay, ooh, that's a little better. All right, so. So now, we've simplified the process. I understand this is not pitched yet, so we can talk about that in a minute. But by sort of going through just the simple method like this, and you'll notice I haven't even gone into a 3D or a floor plan view or anything. I've done everything in 3D, right? Connecting to the toilet, well, that's pretty simple, right? If I'm right here, let's see where this toilet connector is actually. Oh, it's in the back. That's weird. Yeah, that's weird. This may be one where we connect to the bottom of it, because I don't know why the connector. I guess it's a wall. Yeah, that's not what I plan on doing. Oops. Yeah. So here's an example where we can turn up in a section, and I'll show you what that does. So if I go, let me just go to a floor plan real quick. All right, so you can see, here's what we were doing there. Okay, I'm going to draw a section like so. And now there's different ways you can approach this and see this. Notice, I also went to fine. So if you're in coarse, that's another thing I notice a lot of people run into. If you have your view set to coarse, you're not going to see the pipe, right? So you're going to see a line, and that kind of trips people up. So now in this view, I'm going to go, pull this back to wherever it needs to be. I'm going to say create similar, and then I'm just going to draw from this piece up to the bottom of this guy. And then if I go back to my 3D view, you'll see it did that, right? And so it's kind of weird with pipes in the sense of work planes and how they work, but I find that trying to actually fully understand it can be a pain in the ass. And if you just do a create similar from one that's in the work plane, usually it's going to be in the same work plane as the other one. Okay, and I know this isn't perfect, I get it, but I'm just sort of showing you how do you get to where you want to be. If you want to pitch this, there's a couple different ways you can do it. The sort of rudimentary piece, the rudimentary way to do so, is to just hit. Oh, geez, I was clicking around without you guys seeing it again. Is you'll notice that this has an offset on here, an offset on here, right? And so by default, it's flat, as you can see. If I said -1 foot 1 inch, or if I type the complete wrong thing here, let's try that again. All right, -1 foot 1 inch. You'll notice the second you do that, it actually gives it a slope, right? And so that slope exists, right here. And I could say instead of this, I could say 1/4 inch per 12 inches, right? That's gonna start breaking things. It will, but you can draw them. You can draw them on that slope too. But today, I just the goal today is to get you guys modeling as soon as possible. And once you get to that point, then you can start paying more attention to the actual slope and so on and so forth. Okay. So then, if you wanted to start adding more to this, right? So now I want to go from this drain here. Maybe this drain is actually 2.5 inch for whatever reason instead. And again, we could start with the connection. I don't foresee that's going to be an issue on this one, but for now, I'll just go like this. And I didn't actually check what elevation I was at. So let me just double check that real quick. Yeah, so I was at the right elevation here. Okay, so this is an example where now you're going to start playing. Okay, if I did a 45 here, well, that doesn't quite work. Unless you have some weird T thing, which I don't think exists. So maybe you want to pull it further up to connect in the middle here or something like that. So for the sake of ease, I'm just going to move it up a little bit, right? Or maybe do less than a 45, whatever. And that's when stuff will break because it doesn't have the connector piece. So let me just show you. So notice if I went inside, let's see. Perfect. So here's, I was hoping this kind of happened. So what this is saying here is it's saying no auto route solution was found. And notice it's highlighting this guy here. So in my experience, this is kind of like in walls when you're trying to clean up 7 walls when they join together, try to figure out what it is. What's probably happening here is that there isn't a connector or a piece that fits, a fitting that fits in here and makes that angle the way that you want it to do. So my guess is, and again, I'm just doing this on the fly here. If I was to move this down, and let's start on this end just for fun, or not. Try again. Unless this may not have the, there it goes. So you'll see this is the fitting that the PVC pipe has, and you'll notice this has a, this has a length to it, right? And so you need to make sure that this thing fits within what you want, right? And so I'll just show that in there. And so this is part of the reason why, and maybe there's other fittings, maybe you could bring in other fittings, but this is part of the reason why I like modeling this stuff, because it does help you understand some of the limitations as well of what maybe you're trying to do. And so hoping that helped you. And the other thing is now if we're going to go on a 45 after this, right, there's a limitation here, right? So, there's at some point in time, right, this pipe sort of disappears. And so that's when you can start playing with, I'm just going to nudge it for now just to see. You can start playing with what that means, to get from here to here. And you could see I actually was able to do it like that. But, you get kind of the idea. And actually, this connector was right. And notice it actually automatically connected. So this is why having those connectors and doing what you need, doing the connectors first is huge, right? So you saw I'm basically just drawing as if I'm drawing walls, but it's kind of doing what I needed to do, okay? And so now let's have some fun with this toilet one, or this tub. And let's say this tub, because we've got so much going on here, this tub is actually going to drop down and connect to the stack, down here somewhere, just to make it interesting. And so we'll do a 3-inch, probably doesn't need to be a 3-inch, but that's okay. And so what I'm going to want to do is I'm going to want to make sure this thing aligns with the center of here. So this may be an opportunity where it may work out better to do this in a floor plan view. For the sake of time today, I'm not going to do that, but I'm just going to draw a line like this, and then maybe it goes, and then maybe we do a 45 from here, and then we trim this. And so you can see that guy, and notice again, because the connector's there, I just clicked and dragged it, it actually is connecting to it. And I know it seems crazy and easy compared to when you guys may have tried it, but the key is having those system routing preferences in there, and then having your families that you're connecting to having connectors, right? And then you could see how these things just come together, and it's actually just kind of fun, right? It's not frustrating anymore. Okay, and so now from here, what we're going to want to do is I might want this maybe to connect down in this zone. Okay, so there's a couple of things I can try and do. I can try to model it in 3D, but it's going to be a little tricky. This is one where I might jump to an elevation or a section view. So I'll take my section that I had here, and I'm just going to rotate this. You're going to have a lot of working sections when you're working in MEP for sure. And so now, because I'm in a section view, right, I'm orthogonal. Now I'm going to do this guy, create similar, so it's on the same plane, and let's go down to here, and then we'll do a 45 to here, and then boom, right? Literally, that's it. That's how easy it is. I know, it seems crazy. Once you start sloping, the process is the same. It's just, you're dealing with the slope pipe. So I don't feel like going down that road in this video. But it's, you know, like I said, you can change the top and end piece of it, and you can go through, and it's the same process. You're just dealing with pipes that sloped, and then they're meeting at different points. Okay. So now we have piping. I mean, we've got all this thing piped. If you want to, you know, I'm not going to do it. You know, I can pipe the rest of these. You know, come through the same exact process. If I jump back over to my plumbing, you can see I even have the vent pipe coming up through the roof here. Let me go to the framing drawing so you can see it. So if I go over here, you can see there's the sink. Right, there's the sink drains, and these are sloped going through it, and then you can see I even have the wet vent sort of popping through it. So that's literally as easy as the model. So then that should get you started, right? That's the goal. The goal is, oh, and by the way, for those who are interested in downloading this sample file for this specific project, which is available to community members. So if you are interested in checking out this project and following along with this, as well as all the other great things of the community, head on over to community.bimafterdark.com. Here's actually a live look at what's going on right now. You can see we're having some conversations in the front. But if I go under Bad Notepad, what you'll see is that the Northwing project is right here. And not only do I have a bunch of cool snips as I was going along the progress, but I also have the sample files. And look at, there's me doing the plumbing drawings there and sharing the information. So if you're interested in that and you're interested in downloading the sample file, as well as office hours, don't forget, we do office hours. And so we have office hour 97 next in 2 weeks. We just did office hour 96, which is basically every other week. You could see we have these awesome little live streams and so on, or live office hours with myself and a bunch of members. So if you are interested, head on over to community.bimafterdark.com and sign up, and you could download this sample file and see exactly what I'm looking at right here, including a lot of other sample files and stuff. Okay, so that's really it for getting to the model. So what about how it looks? I know, I bet you thought there was a lot more to the piping, but literally that's it, man. I'm telling you, that's it. So how did I get some of these looks? And so one of the real cool ones that I like, and I'll let me go to that sheet, plumbing sheet. And I'm sorry, I'm losing my voice here, so I'm starting to fade. Okay, so a couple different looks. First, with this guy, I've played with a lot of different ways, and there's a lot of ways that you can approach these type of drawings. I actually kind of screwed this one up in the sense that I don't remember why. I think I was modeling in one of the structural plans because I was adjusting the structure. This actually most of this sits below the structure, and there's going to be a drop ceiling for some areas and stuff like that. And so I kind of ran with it. It doesn't really have to be a structural plan. It can be just a regular floor plan. But you'll notice the discipline is plumbing. And so that's a key, because if I flip this to architecture, you can see what happens here. If I flip this to coordination, you can see what happens here. If I flip this black to plumbing, you can see what happens here. So if you guys haven't played with the disciplines of your views, they are super cool to play with when it comes to showing things like electrical, mechanical, plumbing, and so on and so forth. So let me show you what I mean by that. So if I get out of this, let me go to 3D. So this view here, okay, I'm gonna move these guys really far out of the way here so they don't get too distracting. Come on, really? Okay, I'm gonna move this whole thing out here for now. All right, so if I just took this view, this is just the default 3D view with some nice sexy settings to it. If I flip this from by discipline to coordination to plumbing, watch what happens. Boom. Pretty sweet, right? So, I mean, this is showing electrical too, so there's some filtering and stuff you might need to do based on the coordination setup. But you'll notice what it did there is it basically just did this really cool sort of like halftone X-ray thing to only highlight the views that you have here. And this works with links too. So if you guys haven't played with this for showing like riser diagrams or that 3D view I was showing you, that's as easy as it is, right? So that view you're looking at here, this plumbing view, and let me just duplicate it. Plumbing. Here we go. This view right here, you can see this is just a 3D view. If I flip it back to architectural or coordination, let's say. Okay, this is what the view looks like. So I have the walls. This was my structural view. So I had structural framing on. I had the floors hidden. I had a bunch of cool stuff here, and then I just flipped this to plumbing, and that's what you got there. Okay, this also has electrical fixtures and stuff off because usually when you do the systems, it does that. But as you can see, that's a pretty cool view. So that's really all it takes to make those really neat riser diagrams. I see Tyler just mentioned I have the blue outlet junction box. Yes, so that these are actually, these switches and outlets, these are actually Brenton's families, and so we'll talk about that in another episode when I do the electrical. But these are his electrical families are freaking awesome. They are, there's the outlets right there. They are absolutely super cool. But yeah, so that's a little tip there, is using the coordination view, or switching your view by discipline to be a discipline of plumbing, and automatically you have these really, really cool looking 3D views that you can utilize. And then as far as documenting, you can see I actually am not calling out any sizes right now, but all of these right here, these are the multi-category descriptions, right? So you can see here, the one thing that I still have not modeled yet, this is a note from before, these are just lines, these are just detailed lines right now because I was sketching them in there, and this is a text note. So this is, I'm eventually going to model this into something, but basically tying back into the existing hot and cold water, which is somewhere over here, and building a bulkhead. So at some point in time, I'll model that. But as you can see, this view is pretty nice as far as just being able to fully understand what's there. And again, this is just a floor plan view. So you're looking down, right? And then it's just changing the discipline, so it shows that graphics as is, which I think is pretty neat. So there we have it. Pretty cool, right? And so just quick wrap up. It's simple, it's straightforward, but really, take the sample file, copy and paste the pipes and pipe fittings from it. The other thing I should show you real quickly is if you wanted to make a new system type from that, it's pretty straightforward. You can see I actually have let me change it. So I have my footing drains here, right? And so in order to control that and have a little control over that, what I did is I actually just made a type, so a system family that's for pipe types. That's instead of the PVC, I just duplicated this and I called it footing drainage, right? Within that, you could also make the system type, which you can see I actually didn't change that to be also called, let's call this one footing drain. And what's cool, systems are really how you control the graphics of MEP systems as well. And so, oh boy, I just hit material. Hold on a second. So then I can give it a material and have some. Oh boy, that was not good. Okay. So here we can also make a material for like perforated piping or something. I'll just use, So I'll just create a new material and I call this one footing drain. And we can give this a color just for fun. We'll make it like this color, and maybe I'll put a little pattern on it. Let's do some lines just for shits and giggles. Click OK. Right, and now you can see it's this blue pipe, and this is here. So just so you know, there's pipes themselves, right, like this. And then if you tab through, you can get to the system, which is this dashed line. And that has more to do with the actual analysis and other tools in Revit MEP, but it's a really helpful way to be able to control and schedule and get information about your pipes there. So anyways, the wrap up, just open up the Snowden sample file, the plumbing file that was put together, and grab and copy paste those into your model. And then you start modeling, right? Have your plumbing fixtures set up. Create if you're going to a location, I would say like I just did there, create the pipe that you're going to finish and then connect those dots. It's that simple, right? And then the other tip is using your discipline for your view and switching that thing to plumbing. There was a question before about septic tank. If you model it in, what it would look like. Yeah, you can model it in if you know the exact location, the depth and whatnot. And I may actually end up doing that because I'm connecting to the existing pipes for the septic system. So that may be worth it for me to go through there. But yeah, and then connect them, use the discipline to organize your views. And now you're modeling pipes in a small scale residential setting. So hopefully that was helpful for you guys. I will put links below to all the stuff I mentioned today, including the offer code for revitfamily.biz for Brenton's family, how you can join the community, as well as that episode with David Butts about MEP systems, where he goes really deep as an MEP engineer into it. So thank you guys for joining. Please subscribe to the channel. Next week, I'm going to be taking it off live because it's Thanksgiving week and I'm trying to spend some time with the family. But I will be posting some edited videos next week, pre-recorded videos and some really fun stuff. So definitely subscribe and keep an eye on the channel. And the following week, we'll be back live here. I don't remember what day, if it's going to be Tuesday or Thursday, but keep an eye out. And with that, I'm going to go drink some more tea and hope my throat comes back. And I bid you all do have a great night. See you soon.